Hello everyone. So today we are doing factoring quadratics. Remember, when we have a quadratic, the quadratic always is when we have an exponent raised to the second power. And remember, this is our standard form here. We have ax squared plus bx plus c. C, remember, also tells us our y-intercept. Remember, we need to know for later. So let's go ahead and take a look at an example. So right here we have x squared plus 9x plus 20. So remember, this one right here actually is one of our simplest ones. Very easy to do. We don't even need to really do much work. All we have to do is solve the riddle. The riddle, remember, says what two numbers will multiply to get 20 but add to get 9. So we think about it for a second. We know that 5 and 4, when we multiply, get 20, but when you add them together, you get 9. So our factored form would be x plus 5 and x plus 4. We can multiply it or FOIL it back out and get this again to know we're right. So remember, that's the factored form. If we want the solutions or the roots or the x-intercepts, we have to set these each equal to 0. So that's why 0 keeps popping up over here. When we set it equal to 0, basically then we have x plus 4 equals 0, subtract 4, x and x equals negative 4. Same thing here, x equals negative 5. Now, based upon that I know my y-intercept and my two x-intercepts, I know this has two solutions or two x-intercepts. I can actually sketch a quick picture based upon what I know. So think, since I know this right here is positive 20, it has to touch the vertical, the y-axis at 20, which I drew right here in blue. So my parabola is going to come down on the left. So basically it's going to be all almost in quadrant 2. It's going to come down, it's going to touch negative 4, and then turn around and come right back up and touch negative 5. Because since negative 4 and negative 5 are right beside each other on the x-axis, it's basically just going to go and come right back up. So that's just a sketch of what it looks like, which you can pull in your calculator right now and double check if you'd like. But it should look almost something kind of like that. So now let's take a look at our second one over here. This is where it gets a little trickier because now we have a 3 as a coefficient in front of the x squared. So our problem is 3x squared minus 13x minus 10. So this is where, remember, in class we were using the x box. The x box is a very easy way that helps us solve these because we know that our factored form is going to have at least something 3x in it. So now, when we have the x box, on the top part of the x, remember, is a times c. If we go back, remember, to our standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c. See where a and c come in? So our a is 3, our c is negative 10, so 3 times negative 10 becomes negative 30. Down here we have our b. Our b is just simply negative 13. So now, kind of back to this part right here, what two numbers will multiply to get negative 30, but add to get negative 13? I'm thinking negative 15 and positive 2. So once I have these right here, I'm going to come down here. Do you remember when we did our box method for when we were foiling? This is kind of the inverse of that. So basically by working backwards, we're going to work to get our factored parts. So in our box right here, we have 4 parts. We got to put everything in the correct spot, otherwise it's going to just mess us up. So 3x squared is going to go right here. So I try to keep the red to red. C, which is our negative 10, it's going to go down here. So I try to keep green to green for you. The blue right here represents the b's, remember. So the two numbers that when multiply will give us negative 30, but add to get negative 13. So it would be negative 15x and positive 2x. So now, working backwards, we're trying to figure out what two numbers, what one number will go into 3x and 15. So we can basically say 3x goes into 3x squared and into negative 15x. So we're going to pull that out. So basically now what we're saying is, what times 3x will give us 3x squared? It has to be x. So 3x times x gets us 3x squared. So now that we know that, what times x will get us 2x? It has to be 2. Then, again, what times 3x will get us negative 15x, and it has to be negative 5. So now we just have to double check ourselves. So 3x times x, 3x squared, x times 2, 2x, 2 times negative 5, negative 10. 3x times negative 5, negative 15x. So now 3x plus 2 and x minus 5 are our factored. So if we want to now find out where our x-intercepts are, or our roots, we have to set these each equal to 0. So I know it kind of gets small down here, but x minus 5 is easily just going to be x equals 5. And then this one right here, 3x plus 2, we've got to subtract 2 and then divide by 3, which means our two x-intercepts, or roots, are going to be x equals positive 5, x equals negative 2/3. So let's try another one like that, because I know that was kind of confusing. So let's try one more. This time I'm going to do the whole little problem right here with you. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and made two problems here. Go ahead, pause here, and using the Xbox method, try and figure out what your two factors and then turn those into solutions would be. Alright, so now we're back. So we're here. Remember, at the top of our x, we have a times c. A this time, remember, it's not just x squared, it's negative x squared. So that really represents negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 5 becomes positive 5. This down here is negative 6. So we got to think, what two numbers multiply to get 5 but add to get 6? I'm thinking, remember, this is one of those ones you got to be careful. Because technically, 5 and 1. 5 times 1 multiplies to get 5, but then when you add them, you get 6. So that's how we know we're right then. So now, we got to bring this down here. So we have negative x squared here, because remember, a goes in this box. C comes down here, so negative, excuse my writing, it's probably going to be a little crooked. Then this box comes right here. This guy comes right here. So we have 5 here. And then we got to put x's on both of those. So basically now we're trying to figure out what goes in to both negative x squared and positive 1x. Probably going to be negative x. Because right here what we notice actually, we have negatives in our diagonals and then positives in our other diagonals, which means somewhere along the lines we're going to have a negative times a negative to cancel out. So I'm guessing that negative x here, because this is negative, which also up here probably means that this is going to be negative 1, because negative x times negative 1 becomes positive 1x. So right here then now, we have positive x. So negative x times x equals negative x squared. Down here, this is positive, so probably that means this is just going to be positive as well. So x, negative x plus 5, x minus 1. So now let's double check ourselves. So negative x times x, negative x squared. Negative x times negative 1, positive 1x. 5 times negative 1, negative 5. And then 5 times x, 5x. So we can write this now. So I'm going to turn here. So we have negative x plus 5 and x minus 1. So now if we set both of these equal to 0, this one out here is obviously going to be x equals positive 1. This one up here we can say negative x plus 5 equals 0. We subtract 5. So we have negative x equals negative 5. So we want positive x, so all we have to do is just actually change them. So positive x equals positive 5. So voila, there are our two x-intercepts or roots. So now let's look at the second one now. I'm going to scoot over a little bit in front of it. Sorry if you're still working on this. So remember, the top of it goes what again? Correct, a times c. So we've got negative 5 times 25. So which is going to be negative 125. On the bottom right here, we have b, which is just negative 20. So what two numbers multiply to get negative 125, but add to get negative 20? This one's a little trickier. It's big numbers, huh? How about negative 25 and positive 5? Alright, so now, remember, a goes in this box, negative 5x squared. Down here, we have c, which is just positive 25. And then bring our b's on either side right here. So negative 25x and positive 5x. So now we've got to figure out what goes into negative 5x squared and 5x. I'm thinking just 5x. And then that means that if this is 5x, what times 5x will get us negative 5x squared? That's easy, just negative x. So what times negative x now will get us negative 25? I'm thinking just positive 25. And then now, what times 5x will get us 5x? And that's just going to be 1. So now, we can double check ourselves. And, yeah, we got it. So now, I'm just going to kind of erase this a little bit so I have some room. So negative x plus 1 and 5x plus 25. So now, since we have our two factors, all we have to do is set them each equal to 0. And we get, I believe, x equals 1, and then, let's say 5x plus 25 equals 0, minus 25. Divide by 5, so x is going to equal negative 5 and positive 1. Alright, there we go. So that's factoring. Remember, use your x box. The top part is a times c. The bottom one's going to be b. Use this when you have a number in front of your x squared, a coefficient, and it's going to make it 10 times easier for you. Alright.